The Japanese automotive industry is one of the most prominent and largest industries in the world. Japan has been in the top 3 of the countries with most cars manufactured since the 1960s, surpassing Germany. The automotive industry in Japan rapidly increased from the 1970s to the 1990s, and in the 1980s and 1990s, overtook the US as the production leader with up to 13 million cars per year manufactured and significant exports. After massive ramp-up by China in the 2000s and fluctuating US output, Japan is now currently the third largest automotive producer in the world with an annual production of 9.9 million automobiles in 2012. Japanese investments helped grow the auto industry in many countries throughout the last few decades. Japanese Zaibatsu began building their first automobiles in the middle to late 1910s. The companies went about this by either designing their own trucks, or partnering with a European brand to produce and sell their cars in Japan under license. Such examples of this are Isuzu partnering with Wolseley Motors, and the Mitsubishi Model A, which was based upon the Fiat Typo 3. The demand for domestic trucks was greatly increased by the Japanese military build-up before World War II, causing many Japanese manufacturers to break out of their shells and design their own vehicles. In the 1970s, Japan was the pioneer in robotics manufacturing of vehicles. The country is home to a number of companies that produce cars, construction vehicles, motorcycles, ATVs, and engines. Japanese automotive manufacturers include Toyota, Honda, Daihatsu, Nissan, Suzuki, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Subaru, Isuzu, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and Mitsuoka. Cars designed in Japan have won the European Car of the Year, International Car of the Year, and World Car of the Year awards many times. Japanese manufactured and designed vehicles have had worldwide influence, and no longer have the stigma they had in the 1950s and 1960s when they first emerged internationally. History Early years In 1904, Toray Yamaha produced the first domestically manufactured bus, which was powered by a steam engine. In 1907, Komanosiu Kirishiyama produced the Takurai, the first entirely Japanese-made gasoline engine car. The Kunayu Automobile Works built the Kunayu in 1910, and the following year manufactured the Tokyo in cooperation with Tokyo Motor Vehicles Limited. In 1911, Kwashinsha Motor Car Works was established and later began manufacturing a car called the DAT. In 1920, Jizuyo Jidisha Seizo Company, founded by William R. Gorham, began building the Gorham and later the Leela. The company merged with Kwashinsha in 1926 to form the DAT Automobile Manufacturing Company. From 1924 to 1927, Hakuyoshi Iron Works Limited built the Otomo. Toyota, a textile manufacturer, began building cars in 1936. Most early vehicles, however, were trucks produced under military subsidy. Cars built in Japan before World War II tended to be based on European or American models. The 1917 Mitsubishi Model A was based on the Fiat A3-3 design. In the 1930s, Nissan Motors cars were based on the Austin 7 and Graham Page designs, while the Toyota AA model was based on the Chrysler Airflow. Ota built cars in the 1930s based on Ford models, while Shioda built a car resembling a 1935 Pontiac, and Sumida built a car similar to a La Salle. The Ford Motor Company of Japan was established in 1925 and a production plant was set up in Yokohama. General Motors established operations in Osaka in 1927. Chrysler also came to Japan and set up Keiretsu Motors. Between 1925 and 1936, the United States' Big Three automakers' Japanese subsidiaries produced a total of 208,967 vehicles, compared to the domestic producers' total of 12,127 vehicles. In 1936, the Japanese government passed the Automobile Manufacturing Industry Law, which was intended to promote the domestic auto industry and reduce foreign competition. Ironically, this stopped the groundbreaking of an integrated Ford plant in Yokohama, modeled on Dagenham in England and intended to serve the Asian market, that would have established Japan as a major exporter. Instead, by 1939, The foreign manufacturers had been forced out of Japan. Vehicle production was shifted in the late 1930s to truck production due to the Second Sino-Japanese War. For the first decade after World War II, auto production was limited, and until 1966 most production consisted of trucks. Thereafter passenger cars dominated the market. Japanese car designs also continued to imitate or be derived from European and American designs. Exports were very limited in the 1950s, adding up to only 3.1% of the total passenger car production of the decade. 1960s to today during the 1960s, Japanese automakers launched a bevy of new carry cars in their domestic market. Scooters and motorcycles remained dominant, with sales of 1.47 million in 1960 versus a mere 36,000 carry cars. These tiny automobiles usually featured very small engines to keep taxes much lower than larger cars. The average person in Japan was now able to afford an automobile, which boosted sales dramatically and jump-started the auto industry toward becoming what it is today. The first of this new era, actually launched in 1958, was the Subaru 360. It was known as the Lady Beetle, comparing its significance to the Volkswagen Beetle in Germany. Other significant models were the Suzuki Frontier, Mitsubishi Minica, Mazda Carol, and the Honda N360. The keys were very minimalist motoring, however, much too small for most family car usage. The most popular economy car segment in the 60s was the 700 to 800 cc class, embodied by the Toyota Publica, Mitsubishi Colt 800, and the original Mazda Familia. By the end of the 60s, however, these cars were being replaced by full 1-liter cars with 4-stroke engines, a move which was spearheaded by Nissan's 1966 Sunny. All other manufacturers quickly followed suit, except for Toyota, who equipped their Corolla with a 1.1-liter engine. The extra 100 cc's were heavily touted in period advertising. These small family cars took a bigger and bigger share of an already expanding market. All vehicles sold in Japan were taxed yearly based on exterior dimensions and engine displacement. This was established by legislation passed in 1950 that established tax brackets on two classifications: dimension regulations and engine displacement. The taxes were a primary consideration as to which vehicles were selected by Japanese consumers, and guided manufacturers as to what type of vehicles the market would buy. Export expansion. Exports of passenger cars increased nearly to 100-fold in the 60s compared to the previous decade, and were now up to 17.0% of the total production. This, though, was still only the beginning. Rapidly increasing domestic demand and the expansion of Japanese car companies into foreign markets in the 1970s further accelerated growth. Effects of the 1973 Arab oil embargo accelerated vehicle exports along with the exchange rate of the Japanese yen to the US dollar, UK pound, and West German Deutsche Mark. Passenger car exports rose from 100,000 in 1965 to 1,827,000 in 1975. Automobile production in Japan continued to increase rapidly after the 1970s, as Mitsubishi and Honda began selling their vehicles in the U.S. Even more brands came to America and abroad during the 1970s, and by the 1980s, the Japanese manufacturers were gaining a major foothold in the U.S. and world markets. Japanese cars became popular with British buyers in the early 1970s, with Nissan's Datsun badged cars proving especially popular and earning a reputation in Britain for their reliability and low running costs, although rust was a major problem. In the 1960s, Japanese manufacturers began to compete head-on in the domestic market, model for model. This was exemplified by the CB war between the Toyota Corona and Nissan's Bluebird. While this initially led to benefits for consumers, before soon R&D expenditures swelled. Towards the late 1980s and early 1990s, Japanese automobile manufacturers had entered a stage of hyper-design and hyper-equipment. An arms race leading to less competitive products, albeit produced in a highly efficient manner. World leader, with Japanese manufacturers producing very affordable, reliable, and popular cars throughout the 1990s, Japan became the largest car-producing nation in the world in 2000. However, its market share has decreased slightly in recent years, particularly due to old and new competition from South Korea, China and India. Nevertheless, Japan's car industry continues to flourish, its market share has risen again, and in the first quarter of 2008 Toyota surpassed American General Motors to become the world's largest car manufacturer. Today, Japan is the third largest automobile market and, until China recently overtook them, was the largest car producer in the world. Still, automobile export remains one of the country's most profitable exports and is a cornerstone of recovery plan for the latest economic crisis. Timeline of the Japanese car industry. 1907, Hatsudoki Seizo Company, Limited established, 1911, Kwashinsha Motor Car Works established, 1917, Mitsubishi Motors first car, 1918, Isuzu's first car, 1920-1925, Gorham Leela, Auto Production established, 1924-1927, Otomo built at the Hakuyoshi Iron Works in Tokyo, 1931, Mazda Mazdoro, by Toyo Kogyo Corporation, later Mazda, 1934-1957, Ota begins auto production, 1936, Toyota's first car, 1952-1966, Prince Motor Company, 1953-1967, Hino Motors starts auto production, 1954, Subaru's first car, 1955, Suzuki's first car, 1957, Daihatsu's first car, 1963, Honda's first production car, 1966, one of the best-selling cars of all time, the Toyota Corolla, is introduced, 1967, Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association is founded, 1967, Mazda Cosmo 110S was one of first two mass-produced cars with Wankel rotary engine, 1980, Japan surpassed the United States and became first in auto manufacturing, 1981, voluntary export restraints from May limit exports to United States to 1.68 million cars per year. Redundant by 1990 as production inside U.S. displaces direct exports. Similar policies in several EU countries. 1982, Honda Accord becomes the first Japanese car built in the United States at Honda's Marysville, Ohio manufacturing facility. 1982, Mitsuoka first car. 1983, Holden and Nissan form a joint venture in Australia. Nissan Sunny assembled at Nissan Smyrna, Tennessee facility. 1984, Toyota opens NUMMI, the first joint venture plant in the United States with General Motors. 1986, Acura is launched in the U.S. by Honda. 1988, Daihatsu enters the U.S. making it the first time all 9 Japanese manufacturers are present. Toyota Camry becomes third Japanese car manufactured at Toyota's Elanga, Kentucky assembly plant. 1989, Lexus is launched in the U.S. by Toyota. 1989, Infiniti is launched in the U.S. by Nissan. 1989, United Australian Automobile Industries founded in Australia as a joint venture between Toyota and Holden. 1991, Mazda HRX was one of the first hydrogen car. 1994, Japan conceded to the United States back in auto manufacturing. 1996, UAAI joint venture dissolved. 1997, Toyota Prius was the first mass-produced hybrid car. 2003, Scion is launched by Toyota. 2006, Japan surpassed the United States and became first in auto manufacturing again. 2008, Toyota surpassed General Motors to become the world's largest car manufacturer. 2009, Japan was beat by China and became second in auto manufacturing. 2010-2009 Euro 2010 Toyota vehicle recalls. 2011, Tohoku earthquake affects production. Manufacturers' production volumes. The following are vehicle production volumes for Japanese vehicle manufacturers, according to the Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association. See also: List of automobile manufacturers of Japan, automotive industry. References. Further reading, Robert Sobel. Car Wars, The Untold Story. E. P. Dutton. ISBN 0-525-24289-9. Wanda James. Driving from Japan, Japanese Cars in America. McFarland and Company. ISBN 978-0-7864-1734-6. Marco Ruiz. Complete History of the Japanese Car. Portland House. ISBN 978-0517617779. Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association. The Motor Industry of Japan 2011. External links: The Society of Automotive Engineers of Japan 240 Landmarks of Japanese Automotive Technology.